Welcome to Chapter 1 of What Happens When You Die? Could the Bible actually agree with science? This chapter is called The Truth, the Whole Truth, and Nothing But the Truth. I would have to say that one of the most difficult things to do in this world is figure out what is true and what is not. Let's be honest, nobody likes being lied to, but at the same time we can easily set ourselves up to be lied to and believe it because we desperately don't want the alternative to be true. It happens every day in advertising, whether it's a beer commercial or a get-rich-quick scheme you find on the internet. You can easily fall prey to either if you're not educated on the matter, or should I say, if you don't educate yourself on the matter. Truth you want. A beer commercial will do everything it can to make you feel like your life will be better, or people will like you more, or you're more patriotic if you buy that beer. Likewise, someone selling a get-rich-quick scheme will play to your material sense by telling you how much money you can make in a short amount of time and how much better your life will be when you have all that money. Seriously, if beer commercials were advertised like pharmaceutical drugs, with the health hazards clearly stated, you may lose your ability to make good decisions. Your speech will become slurred and you'll make a fool out of yourself if you drink too much. Or, worse yet, someone in the car next to you on the highway may be drunk driving and may cause you to become addicted and develop certain fatal diseases. Do you think they'd sell as much beer? If a person selling the get-rich-quick scheme actually told you your odds of success in their scheme were about as likely as winning the lottery, would you really buy it? We know the answer to both questions is no, but people will still insist on buying both in an attempt to make themselves believe that what is being sold to them is true. I'd like you to keep this in mind as we go through the book because I can assure you that even though I'll lay out a reasonable and logical biblical case that when people die they don't exist anymore, there will be a certain number of people that will still believe that their deceased mom or dad or Uncle Bob are alive in heaven right now looking down on them because they can't or don't want to face the alternative as truth. Subjective truth. There are also people in this world that like to believe that truth is subjective, and it can be different for everyone. They say things like, your truth is different from mine, especially when it comes to religion or religious beliefs. It makes it easier on everyone if we can make up what we believe so we can all just get along, right? Well, if you want to live that way, you'll always be in a state of flux, always changing and never really coming to a solid belief system because you'll keep changing to whatever sounds good to you at the time. If truth ever is subjective at all, though, it really can only be based on the perspective and circumstances of each individual person. Let me give you a couple of examples. First, let's say that we have two people facing each other, though one is standing on the north side of the equator and the other standing on the south side. Now we ask each person if the Earth is spinning from right to left or from left to right. You'll definitely get two different answers, which are both true from each person's different perspective. But is that the truth that matters? Can the Earth be spinning in both directions at the same time? The truth is that the Earth is spinning and can only be spinning in one direction, but in order to know the absolute truth about which direction it spins, we need to look at it from the Earth's perspective, not someone standing on it. In order to understand the Earth's perspective, you would need to change yours by rotating 90 degrees to see the direction it moves is from west to east, not clockwise or counterclockwise. Similarly, our biblical perspective is what needs to change in order to see the absolute truth about life and death, and we need to look at it from God's perspective, not our own. Now, in order to make my other point clear about subjective truth, I'm going to make a statement and you tell me if it's true or not. Parents pay for their children's college education. Now, if you're from my family, that statement would induce a rather hearty belly laugh and would be completely false. Though for some, this would be a true statement, and they couldn't imagine life any other way. This would be truth based on circumstance for some, but not all. Both of these examples are subjective truth, but aren't always true, so they can't be absolute truth like 2 plus 2 equals 4 is. There can't be two or more different truths about what happens at death based on our own perspective if you're a Christian, because the Bible reveals to us that knowledge, imparted by God. We also can't have a different experience at death based on our circumstances either. Just because you happen to be a Christian doesn't make it true that you have an immortal soul that goes to heaven or hell at death, any more than being a Buddhist causes you to be reincarnated after you die. How can both be true? If what we believed determined what was true, then there would be no absolute truth at all, because you could just make up whatever you wanted to be true, even to say that 2 plus 2 was 6. If you're a Christian, in order to find absolute truth, you need to listen to what God tells us through His Word. And to know the truth about life after death, instead of believing what other people tell you about what happens, you need to believe God, and in this case, science as well. I also strongly urge anyone reading this book to give reading the Bible a chance, whether you're already a Christian, belong to another religion, or no religion at all. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Witness Testimony. You may have recognized the title of this chapter. It's part of the oath that a person takes in a courtroom just before they are to give testimony at trial. It typically goes like this. Mr. or Mrs. Witness, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? In the old days, the United States had "So help you God" at the end of the oath, as do many countries. But if you're an atheist or of another religion, they can now also say, under pains and penalties of perjury? At that moment, the witness has to decide to tell the truth or not when they say yes, because everyone says yes, and the judge and jury usually give them the benefit of the doubt because of the penalties in place for deterring liars. We do know that people have lied on the witness stand plenty of times, though. See footnote 6. And I don't believe you can give testimony if you don't take the oath and swear to tell the truth. See footnote 7. In our case, I'd like you to consider yourself to be the judge and jury, and our trial is obviously based on the topic of this book, though we'll state it like this. Are people still alive when they die by means of an immortal soul, according to the Bible? I'll be making a biblically based case that when people die, they're actually dead and don't exist on earth or in heaven or hell, which, as I've stated, agrees with science. The opposition has already made its case to the religious world. As we know, most, if not all, religions believe in some form of immortality. If you're a Christian, hearing a biblically based case should be of great importance, since the whole religion is based on the contents of the Bible. If you're a scientist, reading this should give you pause, as you may just find the Bible to align with your own beliefs in at least one aspect that you didn't see coming. Now, as judge and jury, it's going to be up to you to decide what's true based on the testimony given by the witnesses I bring to you from the Bible. Before we bring any witnesses, I'd like you to keep in mind some kinds of witnesses that you should be aware of. First, we have a material witness. This is the type of witness whose evidence is likely to be sufficiently important to influence the outcome of a trial. Materially, overall, we have two witnesses, the Old Testament and the New Testament. These testimonies are really the only relevant data we have, since it would be impossible to scientifically prove that people are still alive when they die. In fact, as shown in the article by Sean M. Carroll, which I footnoted in the introduction as supporting evidence, Physics and the Immortality of the Soul, we see that it is physically impossible for there to be any life for a soul outside of the body. Contained within these two material witnesses, we'll also find three other kinds of witnesses which are imperative to arriving at biblical truth by their testimony. They are the eyewitness, the expert witness, and the character witness. Now, let's be completely clear. It's really God who is on trial here. The reason I say this is because according to the Bible, all Scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. That's from 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16. So, if all Scripture is inspired by God, then He's the information's actual source and therefore the one on trial. Can you believe God? That is another question you must answer at the end of hearing testimony from all the witnesses. Probably the more accurate question you'll want to answer at the end of the testimony is, will you believe God or someone else? I'd like to end this chapter by getting some character witness testimony for God on the table for you to keep in mind as you read through the book. They're all Bible verses, and I'll just list them out for you to read. Please look them up in the Bible to make sure I'm not lying. In Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 3 and 4, it says, "For I proclaim the name of the Lord. Ascribe greatness to our God. He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are justice, a God of truth and without injustice. Righteous and upright is he." In Psalm 25, verses 8 through 10, it says, "Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore he teaches sinners in the way. The humble he guides in justice, and the humble he teaches his way. All the paths of the Lord are mercy and truth to such as keep his covenant and his testimonies." Psalm 33, verses 4 and 5 says, "For the word of the Lord is right, and all his work is done in truth. He loves righteousness and justice. The earth is full of the goodness of the Lord." In Psalm 57, verse 10, it tells us, "For your mercy reaches unto the heavens, and your truth unto the clouds." In Psalm 86, verse 15, it says, "But you, O Lord, are a God full of compassion and gracious, long-suffering and abundant in mercy and truth." In Psalm 89, verse 34, God says, "My covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips." In Proverbs chapter 2, verses 6 through 8, it tells us that the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. He stores up sound wisdom for the upright. He is a shield to those who walk uprightly. He guards the paths of justice and preserves the way of his saints. In Proverbs chapter 6, verses 16 through 19, it tells us 6 things that the Lord hates. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him: a proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among the brethren. In John chapter 14, verse 6, Jesus said to him, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." In John chapter 17, verse 17, Jesus also says, "Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth." Something to think about. By anyone's standards, after reading the above Bible testimony, would you believe that God is a fair and trustworthy person?